How do you make YouTube videos again?
Welcome to episode 1 of the Any Good Book Review. That's right. If you guys watched my goals video, you'll know that one of the things I wanted to do was review books because I loved reading growing up and I lost touch with it, especially when I hit like college and university. I like to look for a deeper meaning inside literature if I can, but obviously I've taken a back seat for like the last couple of years. So hopefully now I've got a bit more time and I want to be able to do this kind of stuff as well. I can maybe get back into reading again. So naturally, the first book I'm going to read is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's First book I'm going to talk about is a book that I actually read while I was at uni. It's the only book I managed to finish during college and university because I was not able to pick up anything else. If anything, I used it as a means to distract myself from studying because I really did not like studying. So the first book I'm going to be talking about is called Delirium. It's by Lauren Oliver. That's all I know. The book itself follows it's a dystopian future novel. It follows the typical format of you have a society and then you have an everyday concept and society rejects that concept. What would that world be like? So you've got things like the Fahrenheit 451 1984 kind of thing where you say you pick a concept like reading. So that reading is then looked down by society. How does that affect the society when something as so low-key as reading is just said, nope, you can't do that? In this book, Delirium, the concept that has been rendered illegal is called love. You all know what love is, right? Love is seen as like a disease, like a condition in your mind, and they have figured out a way to essentially remove love from your system, and apparently it makes you happier according to the way that the government in this book pitches it to the everyday society. Love is considered a disease. I can't remember, something like deliria, something amori. I don't remember the exact words. I haven't read it in like 3 years, but it's considered like a mental condition that there's a surgery that essentially allows you to be vaccinated from it. You don't feel it anymore, and it's meant to create for a more stable society. The book also follows standard like dystopia precepts in the idea that there is a confined location civilization inhabits, controlled by the government. The government at this point being this organization that makes sure everybody has the vaccination to get, the surgery to get the deliria removed from you is mandatory. Everybody has to go through it when they hit 18. But then you also have, their location is called the wild, so it's the people that have been raised outside of the society, and their belief is that it's fundamentally wrong that this surgery is mandatory and that it takes place regardless. It shouldn't be mandatory at all. It shouldn't even be a thing. The story itself revolves around a girl. Her name is Lena, and she's about to be basically put through the surgery. And she's like has all these mixed feelings about it. She's feeling excited at the same time. She's nervous and everything. She's had friends and family who have their viewpoints on it. There's people who are trying to rebel against the idea. Before they turn 18, similar way that I believe in the early 1900s, before a young girl was to attend her debut, there would often be tales of them being rebellious in the ways a lot of kids do today. And eventually Lena meets this guy called Alex, who is from the wilds. I think it's unbeknownst to her at this point. Alex basically pretends to be a member of the society, so he's already gone through the surgery, and essentially Alex is able to evade like the police and whatever by pretending to be vaccinated. I keep saying vaccinated. It's not a vaccination, it's a surgery. I don't know why I keep saying that. Lena is basically scared because she's very much drawn to this character. The fact that he's very, very charismatic and he has this like live life to the fullest attitude, and slowly and surely she starts to fall in love with him. Then it basically becomes like this battle that she has within herself. She loves this boy. She's fallen in love with this boy, but she has been raised her entire life thinking, but love is wrong. It's something that I'm supposed to have fixed. And then it eventually gets to a point, it all comes to a head, and she wants to basically escape. I'm not gonna talk about the ending because it's the first book that got me into reading since I was a teenager, and it's a very good book. It's actually part of a trilogy, the Delirium trilogy. First book is Delirium, and then it's followed up by Pandemonium and then Requiem. And I want to read all three. I've only read the first one. I do plan to read the other two, and I want to review them as well on this show at some point in the future. In terms of the book and the effect it's had on me, I thought it was a very, very interesting idea. Like the idea of taking an everyday societal construct, like if you say something like love, or if you say something like reading, or even if you say something like, maybe if it's like speaking or compassion, and you say, what if that was just taken away? What would society be like? What would it function like? And what would be the positive and the negatives out of it? Because the book makes a pitch that you do get less failed marriages or less divorces or whatever like that, because the idea of love has been removed, and marriage is basically this idea of not just two people uniting, but the idea that it's people uniting for the better of the society, because your kids grow up being less haphazard in the way of life. But ultimately what it comes down to is the fact that you are stripping away a core emotion that human beings have lived with from like the dawn of man. Basically the idea that two people have this strong connection, and it's removed, and a lot of the magic in terms of the way relationships work is removed, as a matter of fact. And those two ideas basically come to a butting. Obviously the book vilifies the idea of love being a disease, so it's very easy to say love is definitely something that has to be there, and I agree it has to be there, but I just find it very interesting, like, what would it be like if there was no love? Society would have benefits, but at the same time it'd be a very, very cold society. I've said society a lot of times in this video. In terms of my critique, I would say that it's not the most, like I said, it follows a very, very template format in terms of what a dystopian novel is. You basically had a, what if society did not have blank, and you just chuck in a word in there, and the word for this one was love, and then you just basically see where that story lands. So it didn't push the boundaries in terms of what a dystopia setting is. It didn't bring any, I would imagine it didn't bring a lot of people a lot of moral questions, or like be able to toy with certain ideas in the head, because at the end of the day, when you say what if we take love from society, you would know that the answer would be, well, that would be bad, because love obviously is not bad, it's a very good thing. It was a very like romantic dystopia, so the idea is you take a harsh reality and you inject this core happiness, I guess, into it as well, and you can see how much that core happiness fights in order for it to be able to survive the harsh reality. So I give the book like a, do I have a rating system? What do I have? I think should I just do a 5? I would probably just say I'd give the book like maybe like a 3 out of 5. It was very good in terms of getting into, very easy to get into as well, but it doesn't push any. I would say, well, me personally, I would say it doesn't push any boundaries. I believe it even had a pilot for a TV show, right? So there was a TV movie apparently in 2014. I think it's been put down as a TV movie because only the pilot was ever produced. So you can watch it, and well, it was it was at one point or another available on Hulu. Next book. I'm only going to do 2 books only because I wanted to get a video out this week soon, because I spent the majority of this week redoing the family sitting room, so I didn't get a lot of time to edit. I Remain in Darkness. I'm going to be a little bit more serious with this one. This book is essentially like a documented journal by a French writer called Annie Ernaux, and it basically documents from the point of view of Annie the last couple of years of the life of her mother, who was suffering from Alzheimer's. For those of you who don't know, Alzheimer's is a neurological disorder. As far as I might be wrong, but someone will have to verify. It's basically essentially the brain shrinking, which causes the brain cells to die, results in things like dementia. People start behaving outside of normal societal constructs, so you stop behaving normally. Maybe there's memory loss and stuff like that as well, and a lot of transposing of memory. People often revert back into patterns of old memory as well, because it just plays out differently. And I'm fortunate enough not to have known someone who's gone through that, but I can only imagine that it'd be very, very hard to be the son or daughter of someone who suffered from it. And this book was very, very short. I wanted to pick a short book because I wanted to get a video out soon, but it was also very, very, very difficult, very devastating to read. It subverts the idea of a documented journal, of a diary, explaining exactly what the parent goes through, and talks a lot about what the actual child who has to take care of that parent goes through. You read the book and you think, oh, I don't ever want to be put into that situation, but the fact of the matter is that it could happen to anybody, because it's a disease that exists, and if we're unfortunate enough to have to go through it one day, it is going to be very, very tough. There's a case to be made that the version that I read did not really sell as much, did not really sell the devastation of it to me as well as it could have, because she's a French writer, Annie Ernaux, and the book was translated, but it did well enough. Like, it didn't stray away from the specifics. Like, there could have been a lot of stuff that was censored or made to be a little bit more English friendly, but it used words like shit to show you how blunt some of the stuff was, and the fact of the matter is, it's not pretty. The stuff that Ernaux's mother had gone through and had made Annie Ernaux herself go through, it's just sad and it's tragic, and it's really, you don't ever want to have to go through that. There are lines in the book like, she is my mother and somehow she's no longer quite my mother. There's a lot of ways that it can be interpreted in the book. It's basically the idea that she is my mother, she's the woman who gave birth to me, but the mind that goes through that dementia, she's not an adult who can take care of herself anymore. She's been reverted to a childlike state. Annie Ernaux is forced to become the mother of her mother. She has to then start taking care. She has to do things like change clothes that have been defecated in. She's now being the parental figure for her mother. There's a lot of themes like guilt and regret explored in this story as well, not just on the part of the child but also on the sufferer, the parent as well. Annie Ernaux is feeling a lot of guilt because she often has these selfish moments where she's basically saying, I don't want to be taking care of you anymore. Like she's saying that to herself in her head, I don't want to be taking care of this woman anymore, and she feels guilty for feeling like that because ultimately it's not her mother's fault that she is the way she is. And there's also a lot of regret of the elderly. There are those really heart-wrenching moments where Ernaux's mother knows that she might not have a lot of time left, and she's filled with regrets of life experiences that she'd wish she had done up until that point. And I think the line is said in the book, all she wants to do is live, and she knows that she might not have time left. There are those specific moments where she knows that she doesn't have that time left, and other times she's just suffering and forgets people's names. It's a very, very sad book, and the fact that it's even sadder when you think about what Annie Ernaux herself had gone through. She had gone through a failed marriage as well, which she was going through at the time of the documentation of this journal, and she had an abortion as well. You can tell that this person suffered a lot through her life, and it all comes to a head with her mother's death. At least that's what it feels like when reading this book, that she had to suffer that much, and hated the fact that she felt guilty and hated the fact that she felt guilty. It's a very, very, when I say difficult book to read, it was depressing to read, but at the same time, these kind of books, they are very much they're the rawest form of emotion. You know for a fact that there's nothing in there that has just been fabricated. It all comes from the heart. It's very honest in the fact that she feels what things that people would feel guilty about feeling, but that is what she felt, because at the end of the day she's human. If she felt like she didn't want to take care of her parent anymore, is it wrong to want that? Maybe, but is it wrong to feel it? It's not, because you have to be a next level superhuman to say, yes, I'm enjoying this part of the job of being a son or being a daughter. It's something I hope that no one ever has to go through. Rating for the book, I'd probably give it like a 4 out of 5. It was definitely one of the more bleaker books I've read. I mean, if every book had, somebody suffering from a disease, I wouldn't just be giving every book 5 out of 5. So yeah, I would give it a 4 out of 5. Definitely one of the better books I've read, just because of how raw it is in its emotion. I keep saying that because it's true. It's just so real. It just makes me want to hug my mom. Okay, that was the first episode of Any Good Book Review. I'm probably going to do a couple more of these as well. I have some books I plan to read for the future. I think I want to make this like a monthly thing. It just gives me enough time in between to read books. This review only had 2 books. I want to do 3. I just want to get this video out soon because I want to kind of get on a roll with the upload schedule. I know for a fact that 2 of them, one of them I have been reading, I want to finish it off. PewDiePie has already reviewed this book, and because of him I wanted to read it, and it is I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. I think that's how you pronounce it. And I also want to read a book that my friend has asked me to read. He's been asking me to read it forever, and I never get around to it. What was it called? The Emperor's Soul by Brandon Sanderson. I don't even know what it's about. Shay is a forger, a foreigner who can flawlessly recreate any item by rewriting its history using skillful magic. I'll probably have a 3rd book as well. I don't know what that is yet. I'll probably just wait until I've read it and then you'll know next month. How was this? Was this a good first episode? This is going to be like the first thing I'm definitely going to serialize. I 100% want to do more of these because I think it's just a good way for me to get something more regular out, and it'll get me to read. I want to read more. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but yeah, like and subscribe. I hate saying that so much. Yeah, alright, fade to black.